I had a client who was a psychologist. She still is. And I said, so how do you get all of your clients? And she said, well, when I'm ready for some more space in my calendar, I walk out to the window and I look up and I go, all right, I'm ready for the next 10 to come to me. And literally in the next 2 weeks, she says she will get those 10 people that called her because she just puts the order in, she gets, and I was like, at the time I met her, I thought she was kooky as all hell. I was like, what? Well, I am living proof that this is how it works because your outside world matches what's going on in your inside. So if you are clear what you want to attract to yourself in a career function, like the people you want to be around and what you want to do, it shows up. What's going on, everybody? Julie Murphy here, and we are going to chit chat today about how do you approach your financial planning. Even if you have a financial planner, you don't have a financial planner, you're talking to two financial planners, and we just find that we do a little bit different out of the box. And I know some of you have seen the rest of my channel that I'll give you certain approaches in how to do things that might be a little bit different. And Dasha is here to join me in the conversation. And don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell. Why? Because we are going to help you get to a life that you absolutely love. Dasha, thanks, girl.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
So, Dasha, would you like to tell everybody how we met? I think this is a very synchronistic of how we actually teach people how to approach, their what we'll call their life planning, which actually then results in their financials, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm always talking about how first you have to dream the dream and then the money follows. So how about we start there?
Sure. Yeah, I've told this story probably 17 times and I never get tired of it. It never gets old. I was working a cushy corporate job back in Los Angeles, California. And my best friend sends me a podcast with Julie Murphy on it. And she's like, hey, you should listen to this chick. She's talking about all this emotion behind money, everything that you're so passionate about, but no one else talks about. I'm like, okay, let me take a listen. What is she all about? And listening to that podcast, it just resonated so deeply in my soul. Like, oh my God, this is the financial therapy that I'm passionate about. This is managing emotions behind money, not just about managing money itself. And it's just everything that I already believed in and I was already in school for. So I reached out to Julie just to kind of say thank you for putting this out there and just express my gratitude. So we end up on the call for about 40 minutes. Subsequent to that call, I end up booking my flight to Chicago to meet her and her team. Absolutely fall in love with all of them. And I pack up all my crap and I moved to Chicago 6 months later.
Well, let me tell my version of that, right? So we're always talking about lives that thrive. And literally a couple months before Dasha came to me, I just got sick and tired of having financial planners that get the finance part of it, but they don't get the people part of it. And I've been told by those in my industry, like, oh, you're so cute, but you're just like a one-hit wonder. And but Julie's not a repeatable process. And I was like, all right, universe, God, whatever your deity is. I'm like, can you just send me the ones that get it? Like, I want to get planners that work for me that get it. Like, I don't have to teach them this part. And then all of a sudden I get this email from Dasha going, oh my God, I've listened to all your podcasts, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, this is how it works. So this is what I try to teach people is that if you dream the dream, you put your order into God, the universe, whatever you believe in, and then allow it to come to you. So if you think about my MBA that I got from Notre Dame, certainly did not prepare me to do business management in that function whatsoever. But I had a client who was a psychologist. She still is. And I said, so how do you get all of your clients? And she said, well, when I'm ready for some more space in my calendar, I walk out to the window and I look up and I go, all right, I'm ready for the next 10 to come to me. And literally in the next 2 weeks, she says she will get those 10 people that called her because she just puts the order in, she gets, And I was like, at the time I met her, I thought she was kooky as all hell. I was like, what? Well, I am living proof that this is how it works because your outside world matches what's going on in your inside. So if you are clear what you want to attract to yourself in a career function, like the people you want to be around and what you want to do, it shows up. And Dasha, I will say, since you've joined us, it's just easy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's this understanding getting each other. And I didn't have to pay $8,000 as an employer to recruit somebody, right? I
Right.
didn't have to sift through all these resumes and all this stuff that's like, what a waste of time and a waste of energy when I can just be like, okay, I need these people. Here's what I want them like. This is what I want them to do. And then all of a sudden, and Dasha wasn't the last one. I've got two more that are now going to come on a bit later this year. And you sit there and go, thank you, more please. Right. And this morning, Dasha
Is
and I were, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, and then from my perspective, I had a whole list of things that I wanted in an employer, things that I wanted in my colleagues, and that was what I called my dream job. This is what my dream job was going to look like. And then you came into my space and I manifested you in this position, which you've created for me out of thin air. You weren't even quote unquote looking, right? It wasn't an official position that was out there, but it got fulfilled. So moving here, and still when people ask me, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I work at my dream job. Pinch me.
That's so awesome. And then it's true. And we give that assignment to clients, even like
Yeah.
when they are not happy in the work that they do, we sit there and say, okay, well, tell us about not only the income you want, but what kind of travel time do you want? What kind of vacation time do you want? What kind of, do you want to be working? I have a lot of people that are like, I just want to put in my 40 hours and be compensated and be done, but also when it's your dream job, it's not daunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other piece. And I want people to list out not only the normal things that we think to map out in a job, but I also want us to map out the things that are the softer parts. Like, what are my coworkers like? What is my boss like? Like, if you think about the jobs that you've had that you love the most, go back and think about what are those attributes?
Absolutely.
And how did you feel? Did you feel expansive or did you feel contracted? Did you feel like you wanted to wring everybody's neck? Were you getting the bonuses and the raises and the expansion, not only financially, but personal growth? Were you getting all that? And is all of that important to you? Like, we
Mm-hmm.
don't seem to ask these questions, and they're so important.
And the contrast of that is so important. You need to be in that space where it's like, well, I definitely don't want this. So what is the
Mhm.
opposite of that? Because I've
Right.
been on both sides of the spectrum where I checked all the boxes and I had a job that paid me well, but I didn't have the connection with my boss, or I didn't really like my colleagues. So it was on paper it looked great,
Right.
but I knew
Well,
that
it
it
was
wasn't.
funny. It was funny to hear you talk about, you're like, I go to these meetings and I try to teach them about the human side of money, and they're looking at me like I have 10 holes in my
Yes.
head.
They still feel that way, I bet, and that's fine.
And that's totally fine. Well, we have to send them a hint though that behavioral finance is the number one thing that's cutting into the world these days.
Oh, they're finally catching up.
Yeah, yeah. Finally, it's starting to hit the masses in our industry.
Hmm.
And then that kind of led us to, now that you've worked with some of our clients and you've started to navigate your way through, and what stoked us to get on was you're just like, this is like so different. I never really thought about it from this perspective. And you want to talk more about like what we experienced today with a client that was kind of out of the box, and you were talking about the storytelling, and it's like,
Sure.
you tell these stories all the time.
We had a brief meeting in terms of, it had to do with insurance, life insurance with a long-term care rider. And you would think on paper it's simple, boring meeting that's going to last 10 to 15 minutes. And you go into this storytelling mode, and I'm captivated, and I'm part of the team. Like, oh my God, I'm taking notes, and I feel like I'm a client. Like, whatever you're selling, I'm buying, and you're not even selling anything. You're just you're just going with the flow, and you're just so engaged. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to be a part of this process and to learn.
Well, so I wanted to teach people that when so many times when we approach business and we're in our work life, we do it from our mind. And our mind is our ego, where our intuition is our heart,
Hmm.
right? And you leave more of a lasting impression with people, whether it's, employees or people you work with or clients, customers, whatever, if you help them drop into their hearts. So one of the things that I've learned along the way, like if you're working with a financial professional, or even if it's just you and your spouse working on, money together and trying to work out kinks, if you're not going into some of the storytelling or trying to create some of a bridge, like we run into women all the time that are just like, well, I just defer to the guy about the money. And it's like, what do you mean you're deferring to the guy about the money? Like, this is your money. Like, I had a woman who took this company public. She was the 7th employee. She had $78 million when this company went public.
Hmm.
And you know what she did? She deferred to her husband and how they were going to be liquidating it out. And I said, you liquidate it out and you get your payday now.
But
Now.
that's conditioning, right? That's the old paradigm. That's old programming that is so easy to fall into, unfortunately.
Well, and it's because we're in our head. So if we follow the storylining piece, is that we are the creators of our lives. So remember, what is the story of your life and what do you want to create? Like, Dasha, you're the first person I ever heard of. Like, usually people, when they want a job somewhere, they're like, I want them to fly me out. I want them, like the employer. And you were just like, I know I want to do this and I hope it's not too far, but I'm going to fly to Chicago to come see you. Like, you switched the energy.
Yeah.
You literally flipped the energy on its head. Because you're like, I'm in the driver's seat of my life and I know this is what I want. This is what I'm going to go explore. But we don't naturally come from that place as a whole, as society. What made you do that?
It's funny because all of my friends were telling me, well, have her fly you out, have her cover all your moving costs. So I was like, no, I literally fell on these people's heads out of nowhere. And I was like, no, I want to work with you. This is going to be mutually beneficial, and demanding would be my old pattern of being like, well, I need to be flown out. I need to be compensated.
That's
I
all
need to be.
ego.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All
Absolutely.
ego. And it's not that so I'm all about partnering with people. I will not, as an employer, just be the person who writes the checks. Like, I don't even like that role. I'll collaborate with you. It's like we were talking about the other day, adding in bonuses for personal self-care. It's like, well, what employer has like self-care bonuses? It's usually based on production bonuses. We
Right.
have those too, but to me, we have to serve the whole person, not just a piece that
Mm-hmm.
satisfies the business needs. Because you could satisfy my business needs all day long, but if I'm forgetting about the rest of Dasha, at some point I pay a price as an employer.
Yeah.
Whether I have to replace you or you need more time off because you got to get your shit together, or but we're not thinking of our employment from that perspective, from our holistic range. And I think the pandemic really showed many of us that, we want a different quality of life around our work lives,
Absolutely.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
you even jumped during COVID.
Yes, I did.
You
Never look back.
crazy
Great
gal.
decision I ever made.
So tell me, from your perspective, so the other place that you were at was very much in the financial mindset, if you will,
Very
right?
left brain. Yeah.
Very left brain. And so what else would you say are big differences from working, at JMC versus working at other places? Like, has it turned out to be what you thought it was going to crack up to be? I've never asked
And
you
more.
that. Okay, can you expound on that?
This business embodies being a hard-based practice to me, because everything starts from here. which is not something that I've used in any jobs. I used to think that I would need to be a yoga teacher, or like I need to do some type of spiritual work in order to be in this type of atmosphere. And
Right.
yet here I am at a wealth management firm, and it's 100% heart-based, and it starts
Right.
here. Well, even any conversation that you and I have, whether it's personal or professional, your first question is, well, how does that make you feel?
It's true. Yeah. I had
And
a
I
conversation with another client this morning who she kept going to her head, and I kept going, well, does that make you giggle? I'm like, doing it that way, does it make you giggle? And she's like, why do you keep asking me if it makes me giggle? I go, because that's the sign that you're in your heart. And
mm-hmm,
she kept going, like, what she was starting, the pattern I was seeing was that, oh my God, she goes outside of herself for her happiness as opposed to the inside for her happiness. And now she's suffering all over the place because everybody else is making these decisions. And she is like whipping with the wind every time somebody else makes a decision because that's where her point of reference is. And it's like, no, 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 no. The point of reference from your job or any part of your life should be from what's in the inside, and it's about us holding boundaries.
mm-hmm.
That's a big piece, is like holding boundaries of what's true for us. And she's like, well, yeah, I was really kind of stupid because I held this boundary. And then they said, well, you're going to get a pay decrease. And when you do this, and I go, no, you just told the universe, I'm not putting up with that crap anymore. She goes, but Jewel, I'm in a cash flow crunch now. And I go, so what? So what? I go, so let's think of how we turn that around right now. Create a bridge for yourself, but you're being tested
Mm-hmm.
to not go down this old pattern. You're being tested to go push into this new life that you really truly want to create, which money is energy. So if you go after what you really truly want to create, the money follows,
Totally.
right? Totally follows. And we just have to believe and trust that it does when we
Mm-hmm.
operate from our heart, because we've been told, we have a limiting belief in the world today that if you follow your heart and do what your heart loves, you don't get paid,
Yeah.
or you get
Very.
paid so little you're like in poverty. Well, if you're not abundant, how the hell are you going to help a bunch of people? You're not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's about
So,
snapping out of that belief. It doesn't serve
totally.
anyone.
So what's the next part of your story?
Ooh, good question. It's going to be 90 days since I've been with you in 1 week.
That's crazy. That time has flown by.
Time flies. Yeah.
Well, and if
Yeah.
you haven't mapped out what the next 90 days are, be sure to put pen to paper, right? Because that's the most important thing.
I have 7 days to do that. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you for being vulnerable. I really appreciate you sharing, because you did take the leap, and you did it in a time period when we got war potential coming out around the world and everything else. And you're doing it. You're rocking it.
I
So
love
kudos, and follow your intuition, my friend.
it. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. And everyone, don't forget again to hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell. And please share this, would you please? Because we literally are going to help people get to a life that they absolutely love, because we all deserve it. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.